I'm back. If those two words was good enough for Michael Jordan, it's absolutely good enough for me. It has been, as they say, a minute since I've been behind this mic. To be honest with you, a lot has happened since the last episode. A lot. New chapters, new lessons, new clarity. I've changed. And today feels like the right moment to step back into this space with all of you. And honestly, a completely new version of me has emerged. Not to be overly dramatic, but it's true. So before we get into the typical Decker strategy and systems and stories and blah blah blah, I want to unpack today. Let's talk about where I've been. It's been 255 days since my last published episode. And that's a long time. I think I owe you all not just an explanation because you're a faithful, loyal listener base, but that's a long time. Keep in mind, before that gap, I've been working on this podcast since the pandemic, and I never stopped. I kept going and going and going. Most shows take breaks, have seasons. I just kept pushing and kept pushing, creating and creating. It's one thing to realize that if you're a consumer of someone who's creating, who's building, who's doing, we can forget sometimes. These are humans. They need vacations, they need breaks, they need sabbaticals, if you will. And I guess I needed one. But justifiably so much happened in my life that every time I tried to record, or I did record and I never posted because it just never felt at the right time, or I didn't like how the episode turned out. And today's the day I said, press record, say what you need to say, send it to the world, and let it be where it be. Troy, what is going on? How are you? Well, for starters, I'm great. Well, the biggest change in my life since the last time you've heard this voice is that I became a girl dad. That alone shifted everything. How I think, how I move, how I work, how I rest, how I protect my energy and my peace. Having my daughter made me question the grind that used to define me, my whole identity and driver, if you will. It made me slow down and be more intentional because every moment matters now more than it did before. It taught me that time is not promised and that the version of me she meets every day is shaping the world she grows up believing in. Now that is a different type of responsibility than growing a new startup. That is a different type of love than the love of growing and expanding and doing what you do in your career. And that is a different type of clarity than me guiding brands on figuring out what marketplace they should pursue in. Being a dad has pulled me out of complete hustle culture. I was already out of it, but it's ripped me out of it to my core. I realize I do not need to sprint at full speed to prove anything anymore to anyone. And let me tell you, that is so liberating. I want to be present. I want to build with purpose and I want to create from a healthier place, not a place of always being defined and refined by pressure. Now, in the middle of this new life chapter, I've navigated a lot of other new things. My first TED Talk, my first time in Africa, my first time in Uganda, my first time traveling that far away across the world from my newborn and my wife. The preparation, the pressure, the meaning behind the moment. Not to mention where I am with my career and transitions and downfalls and upswings and new clients and losing clients and trying to find where does Troy Sandidge, aka Strategy Hacker, aka just a guy trying to provide and make an impact on this life as long as I can, go. And I'll share all of that in a bit, I promise. Nobody likes a spoiler. Unless it's your customers telling you exactly what they need. But too bad most businesses miss out on these very signals. The hints dropped in emails, the messages hidden in call logs and chats. All of it trapped in the digital ether. But with HubSpot, you get this data all in one place. Their customer platform brings together the insights you need to grow your business. And spoiler alert, the more you know, the more you grow. Visit HubSpot.com to find out how today. Becoming a father has changed how I approach everything. And even this podcast, I sit and I wonder, yes, these are episodes to help impact and grow brands and businesses, from startups and small businesses to creators and entrepreneurs, and even people who are established who are veering off in their careers, or brands who are trying to find what's next. But until I had my baby girl, I never thought of these episodes also being voice journals, where you get to literally be in the mind of Troy, where he was in that exact moment in time. What was he feeling? What was he thinking? What was he talking about? Not to mention how I've talked about marketing and growth and strategy and business and life early on in this show to where it is now has evolved dramatically. Not just reflective of my self-development and growth, but the changes in society, the changes in the world, the changes in literally business and culture. And as I've grown and evolved, I would like to think my vocabulary and dictation and how I articulate and what I describe and how I present things has grown in a way where, wow, we see the growth all the way through. And I never thought that these episodes were just voice journals. I was like, wow, if I were to go off the scene one day, there's a record that she, as she grows up and develops and have her own life far beyond me, what would she think? And that put a different spin on how I approach creating. Creators are literally, if they were trying to make a thing out of this, are at the mercy of the consumers. Certain number of views, certain number of listeners, engagement, all dictates your buying power and positioning for sponsorships and brands and ad revenue and all that stuff. And that's not my business model for this podcast. Sure, I love the opportunity to partner and have sponsors and advertisers. And if you're open to wanting to do that in this new era of I Digress, go to idigress.fm or troy@findtroy.com and we can talk about that, but I digress. But beyond that, this podcast has always been predominantly free for the consumer. I don't have it gated. You can access it at any time. And the whole point of the podcast was to be a voice where I never heard a voice for my own career as an African American marketer, which I've evolved to the strategy hacker and growth strategy brand and all these different things. I've been from politics to small business to nonprofits to merger and acquisitions to SaaS. I've been in 14 different industries. I've been in this game for 15 years. And it never mattered what industry, it never mattered the audience. The tonality of marketing and strategy growth has always been the same to me. And I've had this massive driver to push this forward. Now I've realized the identity of Troy and the identity of me as a career path and how I pursue these things is dramatically different now that I'm a father. It's a different layer to me. I see much differently than I did before of all the different identities that I carry every day. And now it's making sure that they merge and flow together. And so many times when I apply the Clover Business Framework or leads or all the other things that we have navigated together, from acronyms and mnemonics and different structures and things in my book, Strategize Up, I realize when I talk about the human element, I have to split that apart now, because many times our motivators to push through and build isn't just for growth and revenue and success. It's legacy. What legacy are you going to leave to whom comes behind you? And those are questions I've considered, but not to the extent that I am now with my baby girl, Skylar. And it's a glorious thing to be in this headspace, because it challenges me to, can you do what you need to do, but in a way that's healthier, that's sustainable, not only to your financial stability, but your mental, emotional stability, and to the stability of your family, that you're present. You're not just, I'm going to be gone in hyper-focus mode to build, and make millions for people, and then come back and we're now going to relish in it. No, you need to do these things if you choose to accept them while being the most present and active father that you choose to be. Now, that is my choice. That is what I want to be as a partner and a provider and a father. I want to be incredibly active, incredibly present. And so that means I have to rearrange how I think when I build, when I work for clients or businesses or do other additional things like this podcast. This now needs to be reconfigured to fit into my new dynamic of life. And so many of us who are building businesses, who are trying to pursue, who's trying to start, if we have family, and we want that to be a core nucleus part of how we do things, we have to reconstruct how we move things forward. And let me tell y'all, this 255 days has been hard because of the adjustments, from finding out we're having an amazing miracle child to going through the pregnancy phase and then the delivery and then the post delivery and then adapting to this new dynamic and everything in between. Is like life stops, resets, and restarts again. Though technically the world never stopped, your life went through all these things too. So my life did. So it's been a journey, and I welcome it with open arms. And I hope that you embrace this new version of me, this more polished and intentional version of me, to not just produce to do volume or pursue awards or money or all these different things. It's the intangibles, the legacy component. Yes, I celebrate that I am a girl dad. It has been a joy. I've always wanted to be a father. I've always had a good father. I've always wanted to be a good father myself. And it has been one of the most rewarding things of my life. And I will say this too, because I digress. It's my podcast. I can say what I want. For many of those who told me my whole life of how much a dramatic change it would be for me in my identity of business and all the things that I do. And, if you search me online, all these things that comes up, from my own experience, it feels like I haven't lost that. I think the challenge is, how do I grow or maintain where I want to be in those spaces, not leaning on what I used to do to get there? So if you don't know, I have this whole thing about TMKS: time, money, knowledge, and skill. And the whole premise of these currencies that you have is that obviously we have a limited resource of all of them. And most critically, our limited resources is time. But we use time the most to grow, to start something new and leverage. And when you're training that way, we always think we have an abundance of time to use. But as things get pulled away, you get married or you have a partner, then you have a kid, or you're growing a small business while you're working for someone else, and you're going through these different layers of your life. Maybe you have to take care of a parent. There's so many things that come up in our lives that force us to adapt and evolve how we use our time. So, what do we do from there? We still have three more currencies: money, knowledge, and skill. If you have more money, you can now allocate to maybe edit this podcast episode, which I'm currently editing my own episode right now. So if you're an editor who wants to edit I Digress, hit me up. I Digress. But my thing is, your time is so critical. And so as more things come into your life, you have to now navigate, how do I still produce an outcome worthy of what I'm satisfied with, while not imploding under all the other responsibilities of your life? As I sit with that and I reflect with all of you, this is also a key component in my first TED Talk, which I will share with you in a later episode. But the development of that TED Talk has been a reflective journey of where I've been and how I've seen myself these last 255 days since the last episode of I Digress. And it has been an interesting pace to explore and do. I find myself humbled by the experiences of loss. There was a lot of loss. We've had family members that I've lost this year. I've had friends I've lost this year. I've had business opportunities I've lost. I've had clients I've lost. I've lost money, a lot of money, and not by my own merit. It's just what came with the territory of losing clients and opportunities and things that you thought were in the works, that were promised, that you worked so hard for, and then it never came to fruition. Then health challenges that we've navigated, both myself and my partner, my wife, and all these different things play in and eat at our time, eat at our money, which can halt development of skills or pursuing new knowledge. Time has to veer off into more critical areas. Hey, I can't show up in the same way I used to. Hey, I can't create the same things I used to create. Hey, is this still relevant for me to do? I had to ask myself in creating this podcast, does the podcast matter anymore? And that sounds weird to say that out loud, and you're listening like, Troy, how could you say that? We can get to a place where things have to end for other things to begin. Is this still worth the pain and agony to build? That doesn't mean you're failing. That doesn't mean you quit. That means maybe I need to reconsider a new venture that might be easier or more reflective of where I am now. I'm not burnt out. I'm inspired to pursue this. And what I've been doing has been such an anxious chore that I'm not living. And for those who grew up in previous generations of growing businesses, we've been fed this hustle culture that we must sacrifice at all ends for X amount of time for a small possible chance of being the 1% of the 1% of the 1% who succeed and make this abundance of money that can make up for all the years and time sacrificed for yourself, your family, whatever, and you're going to be good. I've seen many people who have made the massive sacrifices get a taste of glory, and then it all falls apart and they can't get it back. Or what they lost and sacrificed to pursue that was so great, they lost their family. They lost other things. I wish I would have spent more time with this family. I wish I would have done more over here. I wish I would have done more vacations. Yeah, you made the money, but now your health is declining. Or maybe you made the money, but now your partner is gone. Not to be over dramatic and not to trigger anyone or have anything, but this is real. And if anything, I've always been on this podcast is real and transparent. I'm not just going to sit here and just talk about strategy and blah, 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 and not talk about the external factors that come into play that you did not anticipate that could literally railroad everything you're trying to build. That is completely out of your control. And are you going to choose to do it anyway or reset because life is being difficult or challenging or different? Anything that you pursue in life is going to have these variables that you did not consider that could blow everything up. And it's up to you to decide, are you still going to pursue it, pivot, adjust, let it go? All of those choices are the right choice depending on the situation for you. There is no wrong choice. It's just the right choice for you in that moment. And the moment we relinquish the pressure of I don't want to make the wrong choice versus I just need to make the best choice for me, everything else is going to be a little bit easier in your life.
What's up, digital world? You're listening to the I Digress audio experience with Troy Sandidge. Social media, marketing, storytelling, business, culture, and more. Coming to you in 3, 2, 1.
I don't owe you all an explanation from the gap of time between episodes, but I'm being real about the realities that prevented me from doing more episodes sooner. Some of it my choice, some of it wasn't, but all of it was necessary for me to come back to this moment, refined, ready to produce, push record, edit, and submit to all of you as of now. Now, I would be remiss to say that there's plenty of times I felt anxious for not doing this sooner. I've probably recorded 15 episodes minimum thinking I'm going to do this. Never did it. I've recorded masterclass interview episodes with amazing people who have been waiting months for me to distribute their episodes. I had life changes. I've had challenges that I never got a chance to even communicate with them. Hey, it's coming. Or I've told you all on social media and stuff, the next episode's coming. It's coming. And then it doesn't come. What I don't ever like to be is a person that has his word, gives his word, says when it's something's going to be, have every intention to do it, and then it doesn't happen. And that's the thing. We all have great intentions. And when we don't fulfill those intentions at times, are we a bad person? Are we a bad business practices because we didn't fulfill the intent? We all can have phenomenal intentions, but our actions and what we navigate externally in our lives dictates a lot more of that, says a lot more of that. So I've probably dropped off completely when it came to the percentage of where I was 0.5%. I think now I'm at 2.5%, which is still phenomenal for a podcast of the millions and millions of podcasts on this planet still rolling right now. So thank you for every listener, but I've dropped off because I wasn't able to show up in the same capacity as maybe someone else who can crank out an episode every single day, every single week, and push it out there and level up with new guests and level up with new solo episodes and everything. I didn't have that. Life changed for me. So that means my directive has changed, but that doesn't mean the goal has derailed. Now I'm coming with a more polished product where I wouldn't have had before. I wouldn't have these different levels and layers of depth to talk about now. And who doesn't want to engage with someone who doesn't evolve and grow and change? If I sound the same, do the same thing, sure, we like consistency and we at times don't like change, but at the same time, we embrace change because it's something new and refreshing and different. And isn't that what this is all about? So, yes, I am back. Troy Sandidge is back on the show. I Digress is back in the game. I'm excited for what's to come. I'm excited for you to hear the masterclass episodes that I have recorded that I need to push out. And for every person I've interviewed who hasn't seen their episode yet, thank you for your patience. I'm sure that you'll be very fulfilled and happy with the output. And that's the other thing too. When you put yourself out there, and let's say things don't go according to plan, you sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, what is everyone thinking? They're not gonna like me. Oh my gosh, I've let people down. I failed people, blah, 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 blah. The mental thought loops that we replay on these things. And then sometimes that comes into play that prevents you from starting again. Hey, it's been this long. Yeah, at this point, you shouldn't go. It's been this long, you shouldn't go. No, 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 no. The theme from the TED Talk that I did when I flew to Uganda. So again, for those who don't know, and I will unpack this in another episode as well. I went to Uganda, my first time in Africa, my first TED Talk, and the theme is the first stone, having the audacity to begin. And I feel that is such a critical theme that is very reflective of where I've been my entire life, but also reflection and good representation of where I am in my life right now. And I think that's where many of us are still pursuing since the pandemic, since all these changes in what's happening in the world from an economical perspective in the industry. There's so many people who are without work or have had to do odd jobs or take on roles, myself included, that they did not want to do, or do other things, or expose other things, or do work that they didn't necessarily want to do because they had to survive. And my thing of journey has always been one of survival that's rooted in impact and purpose. And I think all of us are navigating, that thing. And I think my TED Talk was reflective of so many things of that. And it's almost like I'm talking to you all and it's like a friend you haven't seen in a year. And so much has happened in that year and you just start vomiting all the things that's happened. And it's just like, whoa, this is all over the place. But it's okay because we haven't talked in a long time. I'm so full. So please have your fork and spoon, full tray, or get ready for this full buffet of I Digress episodes to fill you up, not only in strategy and systems and growth goodness, but in life. And I think I want to allow myself the opportunity to articulate more in the life aspect of me and what I've learned and reflections on this show, and not just marketing and business, because it's all in perpetuity. It's all necessary and reasonably easy to talk about and should be talked about because these are all different things that impact how we grow. The DTC Pod, hosted by Ramon and Blaine, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. DTC Pod is a podcast about all things direct to consumer. Ramon and Blaine cover everything from starting, growing, and optimizing e-commerce stores and DTC and D2C brands. They talk with founders, marketers, platforms, creators, marketing growth agencies to cover topics like brand building, social media, influencer marketing, website conversion, paid media, Facebook ads, consumer trends, email marketing, and so much more. From the AI ad strategy every D2C brand needs to $0 to $50 million in 24 months, they have the interviews with great guests that breaks all this down together. If you're interested in the stories behind your favorite consumer brands, this podcast is for you. Listen to DTC Pod wherever you get your podcasts. I was sitting here thinking about this principle called the shadow line principle, which is very dark, but not what you think. The principle reflects back to the 1970s when Toyota was refining its production line. And to make a long story short, the premise is that everything was working really well, except for this one assembly line that kept falling behind schedule. It minute at first, but it was every few minutes, every hour. But if you're not producing X amount of materials on the assembly line and putting it all together for the vehicles, that by the end of the year, physical year, can project into millions of dollars not being attributed because your assembly line wasn't as productive. And I feel like this is a great reflective of our lives. We could have certain areas of our lives that's on track and flowing phenomenal. Then we have other areas of our life, other assembly lines that aren't doing that well. Not enough to cause a crisis, but you see the marginal difference. You can feel it, you can see it, and you're just like, it could be better. But everything looked right. And just on this assembly line, everything looked right. But then one senior engineer looked at the assembly line and realized something that other people did not. Now, where this assembly line was, again, everything's exactly the same. Everything is literally the same, but the placement of this assembly line is closer to the set of windows. And during sunset hours and sunrise hours, there was a shadow that blocked the workbench and certain areas with the assembly workers. And during those windows of time, they might have squinted, have to take a few more seconds to find the right part or use the wrong part because the shadow was blocking that area. Marginally, maybe 5 seconds each time lost to second guess, trying out, things like that. But nevertheless, it impacted productivity compared to the other lines. Now, again, if you look at things at surface value, everything is following the plan. But for some reason, this is working over here, but it's not working over there. And we can beat ourselves up because this isn't working over here, but it is over there. And you're like, I'm applying the same principles, the formulas, the strategies, the structures. And then you're wondering, why is this not working for me over here? And this is where the joy of Troy Sandidge becoming a father and navigating my gap for 255 days to come with this new reflection for you. And it's going to be a bundle of joy and grace. The joy is that you're not broken. Nothing's broken, which is great. And the grace is maybe what's causing you not to get to where you need to be has nothing to do with you at all. You are doing everything right. And it's the external factors that no one else notices or sees that's been slowly impacting your productivity. And you're so ingrained in the systems and formulas and structures of how everything is perfect to what you're doing, you need sometimes to take a step back, or quite a few, and look beyond everything you've looked at to this point to realize there are factors I'm not considering that I physically can't see that's preventing me from making this work. And that's real, right? So again, they're looking at the shadows, they're aligning it, and what did they do to make this adjustment? They moved the assembly line 1 foot over. They moved the whole thing over. They didn't add any additional stuff. They didn't make any dramatic changes. They moved it a foot over. Finally, during these peak hours, the shadows are no longer impacting visibility. And the output of this assembly line is actually better because they were working so much harder under the different shadows, and not to mention the light configurations, I forgot to mention as well. They made these modifications, and now because they were still producing marginally the same as everyone else under additional challenges no one else saw. And now that those challenges and obstacles were now removed, they're actually the most productive line in the factory. So in theory, because they went through the obstacles and challenges and still was a marginal of everyone else, and once they were gone, they were doing really well, they were now the peak assembly line. And so in the same way in your life and in your business, many times, hey, I'm not achieving the 5.5 year-over-year growth. I'm at like 3.1, but I've navigated additional challenges. I have limited team and resources. I don't have the abundance of XYZ. Give yourself grace because you're still doing really well. And if those obstacles and challenges weren't there now, it seems like you would be doing even better than what you would be comparing yourself against. Does that make sense? Are we here? Are you here with me? Because I'm feeling like I'm getting my I digress talking muscles back. I feel like I'm back, like for real. You know what I'm saying? And so I hope you're staying with me on that. I think many times we sit with this and we don't realize there's so many things that a strategy component, a plan, a blueprint, analyzing the screen, analyzing the numbers and KPIs won't tell us about the resistance and obstacles we may be facing or our audience may be facing. That's why it's there to impact why they're not a buyer or a customer or why you haven't produced where you want to be. And you have to ask yourself, is the metrics that we're measuring against adjustable not for just the marketplace, but for us? Have we adjusted the dial of what we're gauging ourselves against for our own internal challenges in business? Now, I've worked with a client, I won't say any names, that had a few people who had lost loved ones and they never adjusted. They expected them to have the same productivity post the loss of the loved one. Now, I'm human, okay? There's a lot of AI in the world, there's a lot of things that we can talk about, but I'm human. And as a human who has a big, high IQ and empathy, it doesn't take a rocket science to say that when someone loses someone very dramatically, they are different. They need time to recover and reset and refocus and adjust. That's not the same person who was your top salesperson or top marketing person post this moment. So that means, one, if everything is predicated on this person being 150% on their A game, your systems suck. I said what I said, and you need to have a better team. Because if we're only solely on this one person, not at being at this maximum capacity, and we can't take away some of their responsibility and spread it amongst other people in the team and within the system to still have that same output and outcome, we were doomed from the start. We were doomed. So again, I've had clients who just push when these people came back. And that's not the way to maintain, sustain, and retain people. Or that's not even good when you have other people on your team seeing that and you're like, oh, well, that's how you're gonna treat people. I don't want that to happen to me. Money alone isn't the only currency. Give people their time back. Take away some of their pressure. If you see they're dealing with external factors, you know what? We're gonna cut your load in half for however long you need it for. Because we know if you've done this so long, at this max capacity at this point, you staying here and working at this capacity is just worth its weight in gold as before. But no, many of us only think in the linear of black and white. If they're not hitting this percentage specifically, they don't have any value. So what's the lesson in this? For starters, just from a business perspective, your business isn't slowed or ending or declining 9 times out of 10 because of massive obstacles. It's these micro ones, these micro frictions. You know, if you're on a website, it could be a slow loading video, a button just in the wrong spot on the mobile experience, a form that asks too many information, too many questions, a confusing call to action. If you are in a presentation and maybe it's just too many slides, you lead with the beginning slide that no one cares about you. Just get right to the point about how this product or service is supposed to change and make my life easier or better, right? It's, hey, you are asking people to make a phone call when they would just rather do a text message or they'd rather do chat with someone. I know my experience. I don't want to talk to people from Amazon. I just want to be in a chat real quick. Here's my complaint. Can you fix it? Boom, done. I'm out. The additional steps of having to make the call, wait, talk, I can chat and do other things. That doesn't disrupt my life. This does. So these micro frictions can make the big difference in how you produce. But it's the same thing in your life. We can do all these different things, but these micro frictions can impact how you navigate. It wasn't that I didn't have the time to create new episodes for I Digress, even pre-child or post-child. It was that I was burnt out. I was so stretched out. It was the additional pressures of how do I justify coming back now? What do I say? Who's going to care what I have to say at this point? I've lost all this. I've lost all that. Or I've had a string of loss. So what more can I do? Am I self-sabotaging? All these different things, these micro things. And it's just in your mind. Or it is very real. And you're just like, that small little thing. Oh, I record something. And the first 2 minutes didn't sound like I would normally sound. So instead of me taking that episode, I didn't use it. Now I'm recording live coming to you from Uganda, and it's like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Hey, let's just take a second and let's analyze where we're at. Not the big things, not the obvious reasons. What are the micro reasons that's slowing you down? The little inconveniences that add up throughout the day, that when you look at your end of the day of your productivity, you're wondering, I didn't get that done because of that. Maybe I should change that. Maybe I need to get up earlier. Maybe I need to get up later. Maybe I need to take a break, binge a whole Netflix show, and come back because I'm overthinking it. I'm thinking too much about it. So again, many times it's not the massive problems and obstacles that are obvious. It's the micro inflections, the micro friction points that are causing you not to deliver on what you're trying to do. So, what's the takeaway? What is the takeaway from all of this? If we're leaning on the shadowline principle, it echoes that people don't fail because they're unmotivated. They fail because something very minute keeps getting in their way from being their most productive self within a time constraint that they have. So, how do we fix these little shadows in our processes and our systems and how we build and grow? Those tiny frictions, those inconvenient steps, those confusing moments, the things people don't complain about, but constantly feel they're there on their journey and navigating in productivity, creativity, output, everything. We need to eliminate those things. Because when you remove the unseen obstacle, everything that is seen speeds up and is more productive and glorious. When I remove the unseen thing of all this pressure of coming back and just talk, at the end of the day, what am I doing? I'm recording. Then I take this, I edit, and give it a title, give it a description, and hit submit. The grand scheme of thing is very simple. But the added things that made this so difficult was my time away, my voice. How do I want to record? How do I want this to sound? What's the hook to get them back? What do I say? How much do I say? How long should this episode be? Where should I record? How should I do this thing? Should I go this way? Should I go that way? I need to speak to these people. I need to share to these people. Oh, should I wait till I get new sponsors? Should I wait till I have all these other episodes recorded first? Because what happens if I record this one, push this one, and then they don't hear from me for a while again? How do I navigate these things? Again, all these things have either not happened, could happen, have happened, or are speculations that aren't real. So I'm navigating obstacles that haven't even happened yet and incorporated that into my reasoning for justification of why I don't produce. And if that isn't one of the realest things we all navigate in business and in life, then I don't know what is. I don't know what is. So yeah, I'm back. Those 255 days was a shadow of the Edgar's podcast experience of like, ooh, it's been a dark day. It's just Gat when he's gonna post something again. Did you miss me? Did you even, do you know what my voice even sounds like anymore? Like, does anyone even want to listen anymore? All these things matter. By the end of the day, what was the reason you created the podcast, Troy? And in the same way for you, what was the reason for you starting the business? The moment you forget your why and you can no longer produce and do because your why, either you need to find a bigger why or you need to find a different business. You need to produce something different because you've lost your why. Your why is going to be your glue, your foundation, your first stone, your foundational stone to ensure you build off of that. And when you lose that cornerstone, everything falls apart. I lost it for a while. Not my fault. So many things have happened in my life. So many things have changed. And so we have to pivot and adjust our currencies accordingly and then our mindset according to adapt to what we're trying to be. And now this is a new journey of the I Digress podcast experience, a new journey for me, and I'm sure a new journey for you, and reflection of my introspection of me and my journey and sharing all of this with all of you within reason. But it's been a joy, and I've learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about business, and I learned that I'm a really good dad, and I love being a dad. And all these different factors come into play in how I show up and how I articulate and how I do what I need to do. And leading into that, reflecting back my time in Kampala, Uganda, where we did the TED Talk, and big shout out to Matthew for giving me the opportunity to do the first TED Talk in Uganda ever. And I was literally the first speaker, a lot of pressure. And at the same time, I'm sitting here like, how did I get here? And if you would look back at my year, I think I didn't do any talks this year. So much has happened. I didn't do any talks. And I felt bad because I wasn't getting paid for talks no more. Things were slowing down. I was like, what's going on? We have to pivot, adjust, whatever. And then I'm like, hey, you want to travel over 7,800 miles to go to your first time in Africa to coincidentally be the first speaker for the first TED Talk experience in Uganda to the Carey University students and share your most vulnerable personal story on the national stage. Say what? Now that's a plot twist for life. You see, many times we have a set way we think life is going to go, And then it doesn't. And then we're like, well, I guess I'm no longer this person, or I can't tap into this ability anymore because I'm no longer doing it. It's kind of like you are a star athlete, you get benched or you get traded, and people think you're obscured because they haven't seen you as a starter for X amount of time and you think your talent is no longer applicable. No, you just got traded, you just got benched. There was someone better. That doesn't take away from your ability and talent. The team configuration, the cost, all that matters and puts you in a different spot. That doesn't take away anything that you've developed over time. That's you. And just because people at the time didn't choose me to be a keynote speaker and pay me to do all these different speakers and different things like that, like other people, did not take away my ability to speak and articulate and share value. So instead of me waiting, I developed other skills. I did other things. That muscle was still there. And if ever called upon, you can bring it right back. And lo and behold, my first time back was on such a stage as this that to me is like the epitome of a checklist of achievements. If you're a speaker, an inspiring speaker, you want to eventually get to a place where you can say, I did a TED Talk. And for me to do it across the world in Africa, in Uganda, in Kampala, Uganda, and be the first one for an all-black ensemble of phenomenal speakers across the world, I'm sitting there like, I don't know if I'm worthy enough. And all these things come in, these micro things come into play that can dictate or impact how you think and see yourself and challenge your identity or identities. Again, we have different identities and levels and layers to ourselves, that we're not just one thing. And when we lose a job, we are not that job. I've lost many. 95% of them were not my fault. It was a decision made on other people. Costs, impact, consolidation, or maybe they didn't want to pay me what I was worth. Maybe I worked my way out of a job, whatever the case might be. So there's so many things that come into play when we lose a job, or we lose this, we lose that. Anything with loss. Losing a loved one does not reflect on you and your ability. Loss causes us to reflect and rewire and reset what's the most critical and most important things for our survival. And then over time, expand to our wants and desires once again. This whole season of mine and pursuing and going, I say, into a hibernation chamber has been one of the hardest seasons of my life. And I've gone through some pretty hard things. And for those who don't know or need to recap, I've gone through 3 brain surgeries. It was 1 year, I think 2017, I had 13 W-2s. I'm not kidding. There was a season where I just couldn't get hired for this stretch, 3 years, where I wasn't getting clients. Nothing was working. I had to burn through my portfolio and savings and take out loans. And we say these things in minor, quick 1 second, 10-second intervals, and then we pass right through them to what's the upside, the glorious side of it, and the other side of it. But I'm telling you, those seasons were long and scary. Is rent going to be paid? Is lights going to stay on? We're going to have food and water. And you think all these different things that you do on social media and all these things that they can search and have these accolades is enough to be like, you're always good. You're not always good. People who are rich can instantly become poor and have to build themselves back up again. People who you think have made it because all you see is the good stuff on social media doesn't mean internal struggles they're having. Oh, this person's doing all these great things. They just launched their 10th book, but they have cancer. And they've been writing books to leave a legacy because they're so aware of their mortality. But they didn't tell you about the other part. So you're looking at them thinking they're writing these books and you're like, I'm going to cast judgment on who they think they are. In actuality, they're trying to do as much as they can with the time that's given to them. Things that people don't see. There's so many more problems and things that the world does not see that you carry every single day. All of this and more I echo in my TED Talk. And I feel very confident that for those who enjoy the podcast experience, who enjoy my perspective and have been on this journey for me from the very beginning, you're going to like the TED Talk. I like it. And you know me, I'm very critical of myself. So if I like it, it must be really good. But I digress. Nevertheless, I think when I'm tying in my life and business and growth and strategy and pursuing and all these big things, we have to take a second to acknowledge the shadows, acknowledge the gaps, acknowledge those micro friction points in our lives that impact how we show up, impact how we produce, how we do business, how we grow. If we don't and play and choose to stay naive to those things, we're going to be just like on the assembly line, working and wondering, why is this one thing not working like the others? There's so many factors that drive success. And sometimes those factors are not always good. I will say some of the best things that have come out of my life have come on the back end of some of the worst things that have happened in my life. Some of the worst business decisions I've ever made, some of the most money I've ever lost was served as the catalyst for me to do the complete opposite. That sounds crazy, right? That, oh, you lost the most money in this moment here to then end up making the most money you ever made there. And you would not have done that if you didn't have to have that experience. Not everything you shouldn't have to experience everything all the time. I can observe other people's quorums and challenges and obstacles and learn without actually having to experiencing them. That's wisdom. I shouldn't have to have experience be my forever teacher at every point in time. That's not wise. And that is not the best, healthiest way, for sure. Nevertheless, there's things that we can't avoid that we will experience that will actually be the reason we become who we're actually meant to be. But we know who wants pain, who wants to suffer, who wants to lose. Nobody likes to have challenges and obstacles, but it comes to the territory of living in this life. So, yeah, I became a girl dad and I did a TED Talk in Africa. And I'm building new opportunities. I've shifted gears. I'm doing a lot of cool, dope new things. I'm open to other new things as well. And along the way, I haven't lost myself. I've evolved myself. And what I want and what I want to do has changed. I want to be very critical and intentional with my time, more than I've ever been in my entire life, which is going to make me a better marketer and strategist and creator and podcaster because now I can't use the same levers of currency I used to do before. I have to be more intentional, which means I have to be more structured, but also more free, which means a better product, a better experience, a better version of me. And though it's hard to look at the current obstacles that you may be facing in your life and in business, that does not mean they're not shaping you for an even better business, an even better version of yourself. We have to take the good and the bad. I know we want to not acknowledge that, but it's in the contract of life. The bad, in many cases, in hindsight, can actually produce good as well. Many things have to be buried and watered to grow. We don't always get the luxury or the privilege to just take something already preset and established and planted somewhere else. And sometimes the journey of actually growing this thing under hard circumstances makes it even stronger and indestructible. So I'll leave you with that nugget as a way of saying, I'm back. And please come back. Because I'm going to continue this in a part 2, and a part 3, and a part 4. We're going to add on these nuggets of different things and reflect back on where have I been, but also where am I going. And new masterclass episodes of I Digress coming as well, with some amazing people who I'm honored and humbled to ask to be on the show, to share their insights and journey, and give you all insights and value. Of course, we'll still have strategy sessions and all these different things. So if you enjoyed this episode, let me know. I'm at Troy on all social media channels. idigress.fm if you have any questions to submit. If you are a sponsor or someone who wants to collaborate on future episodes of I Digress, please go to Troy at Find Troy. Email me. Don't spam me, please. I don't accept those. And we can go from there. And if you are a listener, you're new or you're an OG, thank you. Be gentle. I just got back. But I appreciate you. Let's have a great time in this new era of I Digress. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Tea out.
And that's a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Digress. What was your takeaway? Care to share your thoughts and tag Troy on social media? You can find him on all platforms at Find Troy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review or comment for this episode from wherever you're listening. Looking for a marketing strategist to build the structure, strategies, and systems you need to get the success you want and the ROI you desire in your business? Book a discovery call to talk with Troy at findtroy.com. And as Troy's philosophy goes, imagination is the engine, content is the fuel, social media is the highway, marketing is the roadmap, sales is the destination, culture is the GPS. Thanks for listening.